Secrets nobody told you about bleach outs. Here's the whole tutorial. Stick around and I'm going to tell you everything I know. Hi, I'm Katie. I'm the owner and head stylist at Bobby Hair Studio, and I'm the stylist behind the chair. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I am Bleach Daddy now. I'm no longer Van City Blonde. And quick apologies that I filmed a little bit of this tutorial today in vertical. There's only a couple clips at the beginning and one at the end, but the rest is in horizontal as usual. I started today by prepping my client with K18 mist, and then because she has very dry ends, I also use the K18 oil in throughout her ends so that they're a lot easier to brush through as we do our service today. Because if you know anything about bleach outs, they're about timing and being fast. Now let's go ahead into what we're mixing into the bowl today. We're going to be using Wella Blonde Orplex. I'm going to start with 1 scoop, and I'm going to measure out a ratio of 1 to 1.5 with our developer, and I'm starting with a 20 volume developer. And I'll tell you about how I'm going to level up as I go because we want to create perfect timing. And here is a quick glimpse of what's on my tray and what I'm working with actively today for my client. So today I've separated my client into 4 equal quadrants. I'm going to show you how I utilize my clips to make my sectioning faster and cleaner because this is, again, all about being fast and clean and precise with your application, as anybody who does bleach roots will tell you. So I pinned the side one of my back quadrants that I'm not going to be working with just yet, and then I take the current one that I'm working with and I clip it into 3 different sections so that I'm not having to clip aside anything that's too large. It's going to get all matted and knotted. This is a good thing to use for any client who has long hair or really tangly hair. This Framar brush is my favorite brush for applying bleach roots. You need to get one like this that has a rat tail comb on the end of it and a very soft bristle. This is how I load up my brush. This is also super, super important. You want to utilize the sides of your bowl to load up your brush rather than just dipping your brush into the lightener. This is going to give me proper saturation and a clean application to all of my root areas, just like you're seeing here. So as you watch how I'm applying the roots in real time, I'm going to go over 10 things that affect your lift. Now, some of these things I've talked about in previous videos of mine, some of them I may not have, and I know a lot of you guys are here because you've seen a lot of my other bleach roots or color correction videos, and I super appreciate that. But today I'm going to go into some things that I actually discuss with my apprentices or anyone who's learning from me about how to do bleach roots. These are things that people don't really tell you in other tutorials that actually really matter and do affect how you're going to get a lift. So let's start off with the first thing is salon temperature. If your salon is super, super hot and muggy, you're going to have a faster lift. Keep in mind that bleach goes a lot faster when there's a warmer temperature. So if your salon is super hot that day, you're going to have a faster, more aggressive lift. If you have a lot of air conditioning on, you might not be surprised to find that your bleach is lifting super slowly and you're getting a lot of yellow and orange in your roots and you're having a hard time lifting your client to a perfect level 10. Now let's talk about the client's body temperature. If it's your client's time of the month, her basal body temperature is going to be higher. Now, this is not something you should ask your client, but if you're very close with your clients, like I am, some of them will come in and be like, girl, Aunt Flo is visiting and I am just not having it today. You can sometimes tell by what your client is wearing. If it's unseasonably cool and she is wearing shorts, she might be on her time of the month. And you got to keep in mind that her body is going to be a little warmer, which means that the bleach is going to process faster and she might get a little bit more scalp irritation because of that. The third thing that I'm going to talk about is your Lightener brand. Of course, your Lightener brand matters. Some brands are more aggressive and are faster. Some are a little bit slower and more gentle. Some have more of a clay base. Some have more of a powder bleach base. It really depends on your Lightener brand, and that's why I honestly do prefer the Wella Blonde Orplex. I really also love the Schwarzkopf Blonde Me, but that one swells too much for my liking, so I switched over to Wella Blonde Orplex for all of my bleach roots. I do have one client that I actually mix brands, and I do mix together Wella and Schwarzkopf for one of my clients because I want the power of the Schwarzkopf. But I also want the stick of the Wella. So I mix the two of them together, although that's not something I technically should be recommending. If you do have clients with natural level 1 or level 2 hair, you could try that if you're willing to experiment a little bit. The next thing I'm going to talk about here today is Lightener Consistency. And if you've seen any of my other bleach roots video, you're going to know that I always talk about your consistency in so many aspects. Your consistency in your lightener is the number one thing that matters. You have to mix all of your bowls to the same consistency. And if you're going to mix up your consistencies, you need to start with something that's a little bit more fluid, so it takes a little bit longer, and end off with something that's a little bit thicker, so it picks up quicker. So lightener consistency, when you're at this level of bleach roots, should be the same consistency with every bowl, because I'm going to be leveling up my developer as I go, and I'm going to be working with the heat zones of the head that all work together to make my client lift evenly all together all the way around. This is just something that comes with experience and time. So your consistency needs to be the same with every single bowl if you're going to be doing this long term with your clients. My consistency, I like to do 1 to 1.5 ratio, as I showed you earlier in the bowl. That gives me a little bit of a Greek yogurty consistency, and it's not too toothpastey, it's not too dry, and it's not too watery. And what this is going to do is it's going to allow all of my sections to lift evenly and quickly, and with the proper amount of power that the Lightener brand has expressed that it needs to be mixed to on the back of its basin or bowl, whatever it's called. Your sections need to be as thin as every other section. You need to be very consistent with your sections. So don't be taking some thick ones, some thin ones, just the same width and thickness as every single section. Don't be messing around, because that's where you're going to get orange banding and over processing. The next thing is pattern of application. So this comes down to how you are sectioning off the head and where you are starting with and where you're ending with. So today, as you can see, I've sectioned into 4 sections, 4 quadrants, and I'm starting with the back towards the front. And I'm doing a 20 volume only for the back, and I'm mixing in a little bit of 30 towards the front. Some people may not agree with this. That's totally okay. You'll see that from my results that I get a really great result from this. But that's also something that's a little bit more advanced. If you're newer to bleach roots, I would recommend that you start from the back with a 20 and don't upgrade your developer, and you just do a 20 volume to the front, and you rinse out the back when it's done and wait for the front to catch up. For your pattern of application, it matters where the heat spots are on the head and where the hair is thinner naturally and where it's more condensed and thicker naturally. All these things matter. And where it's thinner naturally, you're going to have more airflow, and that's going to dry out your bleach. And it might be a little bit cooler in those areas. And where it's thicker and more dense, like in the very back center of the head, that's where you're going to get a lot of heat. That's where you're going to get a little bit more swelling. That's where you're just going to get a little bit more potential for damage there. So keep those things in mind as well. But today I am doing back to front. And sometimes I do front to back. It all just depends on how I'm feeling and what application I want to do that day. Developer leveling is very important. Again, if you are new to bleach roots and you want to take it slow, that's okay. Use your 1 level of developer and don't rush yourself. It's more important to be precise than it is to be fast, and eventually speed will come with time. Because developer leveling is something that is a little bit tricky. It's something that you have to know from experience what to do. And I don't develop. Wow, I'm having a stroke. I don't level up my developers by an entire level, if you know what I'm saying. I don't go from only 20 to only 30. I just add a bit of 30 into my next bowls to speed it up a little bit, to catch it up a little bit, because a little goes a long way when you're going between the jumps of a 20 volume and a 30 volume developer. Next thing is your speed. Speed matters for something like this. And I mean, I've mentioned it a few times already in this video, but speed is what allows you to get everything on quickly. And the faster you get everything on, obviously the faster the whole service goes. But as you can see with my application here, this is all in real time. It took me, I think it was about 45 minutes to apply the whole head, which is not super fast, but it's because of you need to be precise and you need to be consistent with everything. Again, I'm going to use that word about a billion times in this video. If you're playing a drinking game with me, by the way, every time I say consistent, take a sip. You will die by the end of this video. The next thing I'm going to talk about here is insulation. Are you covering her head with a plastic bag, not her face, or any kind of plastic wrap, or you can use any foils to create insulation here. Insulation is another thing that's going to affect your lift because it's going to keep the heat in and keep the moisture in. If you use foils, it's going to keep the heat in, and if you use plastic, it's also going to keep the moisture in. I find foils are great for using for someone who has a pretty typically fast lift, and then using a plastic bag or a bit of plastic wrap on top of the head. I find that that's great for someone who has very, very, very dark hair naturally, and they need a long, long, long time to lift, and you just got to be super patient with them. One of my clients has Asian hair, and he has such dark, thick hair, and we lift him to a level 10 platinum, and it takes forever for him to lift, which is why I utilize both the foils and the plastic bag so that he has that time to lift. I also utilize a little bit of extra product about halfway through his lifting time. I reapply to some stubborn areas. But insulation is very important, especially if you do have any kind of air conditioning going on in the salon that day. You need to cover the head with a plastic bag. And on top of the parting today, you're going to see that I do lay a foil down very gently so that the heat doesn't escape from the top of the head too much, that it has a little bit of that kind of reflection time on the parting, because that's the spot that you don't want to just have orange, right? It's the parting. It's the very top of the head. Everyone's going to see it. So a lot of people just leave that out to breathe. I don't. I put a foil on top just to keep it a little extra warm in there to make sure that we have a proper even lift everywhere, all over the head, including the top. And the last thing I'm going to say, number 10, is your product freshness. You need to have a fresh bowl every 10 minutes of application. 15 is also fine depending on how you've mixed. If you've mixed a little bit more watery, 15 would be fine. But if you've got a little bit of a thicker mix, I would say 10 minutes. So don't mix giant scoops. Please don't do that. That's a huge mistake that a lot of beginners do, is they don't want to run back and forth because they're thinking timing. They don't want to go back and forth between the color bar. No, you need to be going back and forth every 10 minutes mixing a fresh bowl, because the bleach is processing in the bowl whether you like it or not. So it's going to be sitting there and it's going to be activating while you're applying the roots, and it's not always going to be activating on the roots until it's there. So every 10 minutes, getting a new bowl, it's going to have fresh stuff. Mix a half a scoop if you need to. If you're new to this and you don't apply very fast, do a half scoop, or just bring your bleach and your developer to your station with you. If you are worried about back and forth time between the color bar and your station, just bring those things with you so it's a lot faster and cuts down on your time. Now let's go over the elephant in the room for anybody who has been doing bleach roots for a long time. They're probably wondering, what are you doing applying from bottom to top here? Most people apply from top to bottom and flip the hair back down. So the reason that I'm doing that is because I want to keep this as neat as possible. I find when I apply from bottom to top, I am only laying down the hair once. I am not lifting it up and back down and up and back down and causing the bleach to move all over the place. If you do this, you can cause the bleach to move away from the scalp, which causes little black holes in your lift. Have you ever done a bleach root and you think it's perfect, and then you rinse it out and you're putting on the toner and you notice like a little orange or brown or black hole in like the middle of their head or around the side or somewhere on their head, where you're like, why didn't the bleach touch that? I know I applied the bleach there. It's because you're probably moving the hair around too much. You're moving it up and down, and it's pushing the bleach away from the scalp. So this is why I apply bottom to top, because as you can see, once I lay down a piece of hair, I don't touch it again. It's just there, it's sitting, it's keeping itself warm, and there is very little risk of getting little hairs involved in there that are going to sit there and break. It's just a lot neater of an application, and I find it's a lot faster personally. So I find that because the front hair is a lot less dense than the hair in the back, anything around the face, it is more susceptible to shifting the bleach and leaving black holes. And I tend to get that around the ears. where there's very little hair. So I found that this is my favorite method to do so, because then I don't get banding or black holes around the ears or anywhere, to be honest. If the hair doesn't move, there's a lot less breakage and it's faster and it's cleaner. This is just the method that I found after trying dozens and dozens and dozens of methods, that this is my favorite way to do it. So honestly, I do recommend that you guys all, if you want to become, bleach root specialists, that you do try every method at least once to see what it is that you like to do. Try to learn from every method, but this is what I personally like to do, is bottom to top application and back to front, sometimes front to back. So this is one quadrant. You just saw me in real time. I didn't speed anything up. This is one quadrant of application. I always make sure to go around the perimeter of each quadrant as well, and reapply just a little extra lightener too, to make sure it's all fresh. But this is after I've applied all 4 quadrants. You can see that my top left one is the last one that I applied. So I went back left, back right, front left. And it doesn't matter in order which one you do, but you can see that my back left is looking really good. It's almost done. And up at the top there, you can see that there's still that brown underneath the bleach, and she has just had that put on. Now I'm going to be also grabbing a Framar foil here, these super, super cute cherry ones, and I'm going to be very gently laying it on top of the parting, as I told you guys about earlier. This is just going to insulate that parting, make sure that we don't get any orange banding right up at the top of the head. It's very gentle, just reflects that heat back down onto the head so that it doesn't fully escape from the top of the head. Now she's going to process. After a little bit of time, this is what she looks like. You can see that the front has caught up very evenly to the back. She has a very consistent and even lift, and it's looking super, super beautiful. So we're going to wash her out, and we're going to be using the K18 mask on her hair. And so I've just used shampoo and the K18 mask, and I'm showing you guys the raw lift of her hair. As I'm lifting up the roots, you can see that it is very even everywhere. It's beautiful, perfect level 10 lift. Her hair is feeling great. It's looking healthy, and it's super, super even. This is why I like doing it like this, you guys. I just really wanted to show you how all those roots look. They're super, super soft and even. Perfect level 10. I'm loving this application. I'm doing this with all my clients. This is the method that I'm settling down on now. And now that I've brushed it out too, you can also see that it's a very consistent color from roots down to ends. She's a very bright color. And of course her ends are going to have a little bit more of that warmth because they are several years old, but we are going to be applying a toner to help that today. So the toner formula that I'm using is the Schwarzkopf Blonde Me line, and I'm mixing equal parts of ice and Irisé 1:1, and I'm adding a secret little formula, 2 grams of strawberry in here, and strawberry is their pink tone. I'm adding a little tiny bit of that today just to give it a pearlescent finish. Now if you ever use this, keep in mind it looks scary as heck when you put this color on. It starts off being really pink, and then it goes very purpley, and then it eventually turns into a more of a silver color. But have no fear, just trust the process, wait the full 20-minute application time. This is the result you're going to get. Every time I wash out a blonde toner, I always like to use a purple shampoo just because I find it really balances the hair really, really nicely, and then a hydrating conditioner. I've blow dried her. She has a beautiful, healthy, shiny, platinum blonde root. And she didn't go too icy or ashy, and that's because of the strawberry in there. Now she has a little bit of that pearlescent finish, which I absolutely love, which is why I add the strawberry in there. It also prevents the hair from going too icy and too cool because of that slight red tone. And the redness in there just fights anything from going too green, bluey, ashy. No one really likes that anymore. We're going for bright, pearlescent platinum. What do you guys think of this transformation today? I guess it's not really a transformation, it's just a root touch-up, but I want to hear what you guys thought, and if you learned anything new from my 10 tips and tricks that no one tells you about bleach outs, about things that'll affect your lift. If you want to see more videos like this, please let me know. And one quick little word is today that I'm announcing that we've reached 100,000 subscribers! Woo! I'm so happy. Yay! Thank you guys so much for following along with my channel. If you want to see more videos like this, please remember to like and subscribe. That helps the channel so much. And here's to working on getting towards 200,000. Let's do that together. Thank you guys so much. Have a lovely afternoon and a lovely weekend if it's your weekend. And I will see you for the next one.